Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now. You know that sinking feeling you get when you watch someone's entire career implode in real time on social media? Yeah. Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into one of the most explosive controversies to hit the NFL this season. And trust me when I tell you, this story has absolutely everything. We're talking career-threatening drama, social media warfare, leaked insider information, and a fiancé who apparently missed the memo about keeping your mouth shut when your man is riding the bench. This is the kind of train wreck that makes you grab the popcorn, sit back, and wonder how things could possibly get any worse for Cleveland Browns backup quarterback Dillon Gabriel and his outspoken better half. So what exactly went down that has the entire Browns organization allegedly in crisis mode? What did Dillon Gabriel's fiancé say that has insiders claiming she may have just torpedoed whatever slim chances he had left in Cleveland? And most importantly, why are people saying this could be the beginning of the end for Gabriel's NFL career before it even really started? We're about to break down every juicy detail of this absolute mess, and I promise you, by the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly why sometimes the best thing you can do for your partner's career is to stay completely silent on social media. Let's get into it. The drama began innocently enough, or at least that's how it appeared on the surface. Dillon Gabriel's fiancée, like so many other NFL wives and girlfriends, decided to document her game day outfit preparation on TikTok. Now, in 2025, this is practically standard operating procedure for anyone connected to professional athletes. These partners have massive followings, they monetize their content, and they've turned their relationships into full-blown brands. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. In fact, it's become expected. The problem is that when you decide to live your life publicly like this, every single thing you say and do gets scrutinized under a microscope, especially when your quarterback boyfriend is struggling to maintain his position on an NFL roster. The video itself was your typical get ready with me content. She cycled through multiple outfit changes, showing off Brown-themed clothing to support the Browns, trying on different combinations of leggings, sweatshirts, jeans, jackets, and boots. Her friend had even made her a custom Browns sweatshirt that cinched at the waist. She modeled Acne Studios jeans that she admitted were way too expensive. She threw on hunter boots, a big bomber jacket, earmuffs, and went through what she claimed was change of plans number 3 or 4. It was all very influencer typical, very on brand for the Instagram perfect NFL girlfriend aesthetic that's become so common. Viewers watched as she tried leather pants, then decided they were too leathery. She switched from one pair of jeans to another. She debated whether certain pieces matched. It was fashion content, nothing more, nothing less, or so it seemed. But here's where things took a turn from harmless fashion content to career-threatening controversy. The original caption on that TikTok video read, and I quote, "Browns loss. What's new?" Let that sink in for a moment. Dillon Gabriel's fiancé, while her quarterback boyfriend is desperately trying to prove himself worthy of an NFL roster spot, while he's fighting to show the organization that investing a draft pick in him wasn't a mistake, while he's sitting on the bench watching starter Shedeur take every meaningful snap, decided it would be a brilliant idea to publicly shade the team that signs his paychecks, the team that controls his entire professional future, the team that could cut him tomorrow if they wanted to, that team. She decided to take shots at that team. Now, TMZ picked up the story almost immediately, because of course they did. This is exactly the kind of drama that sports media lives for. The video started going viral, and not in the good way. Browns fans, who are already notoriously passionate and have endured decades of disappointment, were absolutely not having it. Comments started flooding and questioning why she was throwing shade at the team while simultaneously wearing all Browns gear and presumably enjoying the benefits of Gabriel's NFL contract. One commenter pointed out something that really hit home, writing, I don't remember these captions when your man was QB1. And honestly, that's the entire controversy summed up in one sentence. When Dillon Gabriel was getting opportunities, when he was taking first-team reps, when the organization was giving him every chance to prove himself as a starter, everything was sunshine and rainbows on social media. But the moment he got benched, the moment Shedeur Sanders earned the starting job that Gabriel couldn't hold on to, suddenly it's all passive-aggressive captions and thinly veiled criticism of the organization. Let's talk about what actually happened with Dillon Gabriel's opportunity in Cleveland, because context matters here. This wasn't a situation where some unfair coach had it out for him or where he never got a real chance to prove himself. Gabriel was selected as a top 100 pick in the NFL draft. That's a significant investment by an organization. When you're picked that high, you're expected to contribute, potentially even start eventually. Gabriel got called by Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, the general manager and head coach respectively, and was told he was their guy. He looked at the Browns' quarterback situation and reasonably thought he'd have a legitimate opportunity to compete for a starting job. And you know what? He did get that opportunity. He got 5 starts. He was given first-team reps even when veteran Joe Flacco was on the roster. The coaching staff laid out a clear path for him to succeed and beat out the competition. They gave him everything he needed. And what did Dillon Gabriel do with that golden opportunity? He failed to capitalize on it. He didn't play well enough to keep the starting job. Shedeur Sanders, meanwhile, came in and actually earned his position through performance. This is crucial to understand because it completely undermines any sympathy we might otherwise have for Gabriel's situation. Sanders wasn't handed anything. Kevin Stefanski specifically told him when he arrived in Cleveland that he'd have to earn everything, that nothing would be given to him based on his name or draft status. And Shedeur Sanders went out and did exactly that. He earned the respect of his teammates, he earned the confidence of the coaching staff, and he earned that starting quarterback position through his play on the field. That's how it's supposed to work in professional football. The best player plays. Gabriel had his chance and couldn't get it done. That's not the organization's fault. That's not the coach's fault. That's on Dillon Gabriel. So when his fiancé started taking shots at the team online, you can imagine how well that went over with Browns fans who were already frustrated watching their team struggle. But the situation went from bad to catastrophically worse when she decided to engage directly with critics in the comments section. A TikTok user with the handle @LeonJohnJames commented on her video with some harsh words. He called her comment disgusting and accused her of being openly racist, which seems like a pretty extreme leap based solely on her criticizing the team's performance. But he went further. He referenced the fact that some fans had actually cheered when Gabriel suffered what he called a little headache and was afraid to play, referring to Gabriel being removed from a game after a concussion. LeonJohnJames then claimed that nobody in the locker room respects Gabriel. Now, that's a pretty serious accusation to make about any professional athlete, and it's almost certainly an exaggeration at minimum. But here's where Dillon Gabriel's fiancé made what might be the biggest mistake of this entire saga. Instead of ignoring the comment, instead of taking the high road, instead of recognizing that engaging with trolls on social media never ends well, she decided to fire back. Her response was dripping with condescension. She wrote, "Actually, everyone in the building wants him to play, but you wouldn't know that because you've never played in the NFL or been a coach, right?" She even misspelled coach in her attempt to be dismissive. Now, on one level, you can understand the instinct to defend your partner when someone is attacking him online. That's a natural human response. The problem is that when you're connected to someone in professional sports, especially someone whose position with the team is already tenuous, you simply cannot afford to get into public feuds with fans. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if the fan is being unreasonable or unfair. You cannot win by engaging, and you can absolutely lose a lot by doing so. According to sources that broke after this exchange went viral, insiders within the Browns organization are reportedly not happy about this situation at all. And why would they be? From a front office perspective, you've got a backup quarterback whose fiancé is publicly criticizing the team's performance and then getting into arguments with fans on social media. That's the kind of distraction that NFL organizations absolutely hate. Professional football is already hard enough without dealing with off-field drama that has nothing to do with what happens between the lines. Front offices value players who keep their heads down, do their work, and don't create unnecessary headaches for the PR department. When you're a backup quarterback, someone who is essentially fighting for every roster spot, the last thing you want is any kind of controversy swirling around you. Your job is to be ready when called upon, to be a good teammate, to study the playbook, and to make yourself valuable to the organization in whatever capacity they need. Your job is definitely not to have your significant other starting social media beef with the fan base. The timing of all this makes it even worse for Gabriel. We're at a point in the season where roster decisions are constantly being evaluated. The Browns, like every NFL team, are assessing their depth chart, figuring out who provides value and who might be expendable, especially at the quarterback position where you can only carry so many players. Dillon Gabriel was already in a precarious position as a backup who couldn't win the starting job when given the opportunity. Now you add this layer of social media drama, and suddenly he becomes the kind of player that organizations start viewing as more trouble than he's worth. It doesn't matter that he personally didn't say anything inappropriate. In the NFL, your circle reflects on you. If your fiancé is creating problems, that's your problem by extension. There's also the broader issue of what this reveals about Gabriel's situation and mindset, or at least how his fiancé perceives it. When she posted that original caption about the Browns losing and questioning what's new, she was essentially aligning herself with critics of the team rather than supporting the organization that employs her future husband. That's a massive red flag from a team culture perspective. NFL franchises want everyone associated with their players to be all in on the organization, especially during tough times. They want partners who understand that you support the team publicly, even when things aren't going well privately. The fact that Gabriel's fiancé felt comfortable openly mocking the team's performance suggests either a fundamental misunderstanding of how NFL politics work or a level of frustration that boiled over without consideration for the consequences. Neither explanation reflects well on the situation. Let's also address the elephant in the room regarding Dillon Gabriel's future in the NFL. The brutal truth is that his career trajectory is not looking promising right now. He was drafted with the expectation that he could develop into at least a solid backup, if not eventually compete for a starting role. Instead, he's shown in his limited opportunities that he's not ready for prime time at the NFL level. The gap between college success and professional football is enormous, and not every talented college quarterback can make that leap. Gabriel appears to be one of those players who was great in college, but is struggling to translate that success to the pros. That's not a knock on him as a person. It's just the reality of how difficult it is to play quarterback in the National Football League. When you combine Gabriel's on-field struggles with this off-field drama, you start to see why some analysts and insiders are suggesting this could potentially be his last season in the league, or at least his last season in Cleveland. NFL teams have very little patience for backup quarterbacks who bring drama without bringing production. There are too many other options available. Too many other players who would be thrilled to have a backup quarterback job and would keep their circle drama-free. If the Browns decide they're done dealing with the Gabriel situation, they can simply cut him and sign someone else. That's how expendable backup quarterbacks are in this league. Unless you're an established veteran who's proven you can step in and win games when needed, you're constantly on thin ice. And that ice gets even thinner when your personal life starts making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Some people might argue that we're being too harsh on Gabriel's fiancé, that she should be allowed to express her opinions, that she's her own person with her own social media presence and shouldn't have to censor herself because of who she's dating. And look, on a philosophical level, there's merit to that argument. Everyone should be able to speak their mind, and it's not fair that partners of professional athletes are expected to be silent and perfect at all times. But we're not talking about philosophy here. We're talking about practical reality. The practical reality is that when you're in a relationship with someone whose career depends on maintaining good relationships with an organization and a fan base, your actions affect their career whether that's fair or not. You can rail against that reality all you want, but it's not going to change. If supporting your partner's career means biting your tongue on social media sometimes, that's a pretty small sacrifice to make. The other factor to consider is the new landscape of social media and how it's changed the dynamics around professional athletes and their families. 20 years ago, if a player's girlfriend or wife had an issue with the team or wanted to vent about their partner's playing time, she might tell her friends over coffee or complain to family members on the phone. Those conversations stayed private. But in 2025, everyone's an influencer. Everyone has a platform, and everyone's life is documented online in real time. These NFL partners have learned that they can monetize their followings and build their own brands, which is great for them financially. The flip side is that everything they say and do is now public and permanent. There's no such thing as venting privately when you have thousands or millions of followers watching your every move. This is the world we live in now, and people connected to professional athletes need to adapt to that reality. What makes this situation particularly frustrating is how easily it could have been avoided. If Gabriel's fiancé had simply posted her outfit video with a neutral caption, none of this happens. If she had written something supportive like "Game Day Ready, Go Browns," or even just "Outfit of the Day," this wouldn't be a story. But she chose to take an unnecessary shot at the team and then compounded that mistake by engaging with critics in the comments. Those were choices, and choices have consequences, especially when you're living your life in the public eye. You can't have it both ways, enjoying the benefits of social media attention and monetization, while also expecting to face no consequences when you say controversial things. That's not how this works. From Cleveland's perspective as an organization, they're now in an awkward position. Do they address this situation directly with Gabriel? Do they issue some kind of statement about expecting everyone associated with the team to be professional? Do they just ignore it and hope it blows over? There's no great option here. If they make a big deal out of it, they risk making the situation even bigger and creating more of a distraction. If they ignore it completely, they risk looking weak and like they're tolerating public criticism from a player's family member. Most likely, they'll handle it quietly behind closed doors, having a conversation with Gabriel about managing his household's social media presence better while publicly pretending nothing happened. But you can bet this incident is now in his file, so to speak, and will be remembered when roster decisions are being made. The irony in all of this is that Gabriel's fiancé probably thought she was defending her man and standing up for him in a situation where he wasn't getting the respect she felt he deserved. Her intentions may have been good on some level. She sees her partner working hard, preparing diligently, and sitting on the bench while others play, and she's frustrated on his behalf. That's understandable from a human perspective. But good intentions don't matter when the execution creates problems for the person you're trying to support. If Gabriel ends up getting cut or not re-signed because he's seen as bringing too much baggage for a backup quarterback position, her social media posts will have directly contributed to ending his NFL career. That's not supporting your partner, that's inadvertently sabotaging him. There's also the question of locker room dynamics and how Gabriel's teammates view this situation. Professional athletes are generally pretty good at separating a player from their partner's behavior, but there are limits to that. If you're a Browns player who's working your tail off trying to turn the season around, trying to win games and save jobs, and you see a teammate's fiancé publicly mocking the team's performance online, that's going to rub you the wrong way. It just is. It creates an uncomfortable dynamic where guys might start questioning whether Gabriel is really bought into the team, or if he and his circle are just bitter about his role. Fair or not, that's the kind of thing that can subtly affect how a player is perceived by his teammates. And perception matters enormously in professional sports locker rooms. Looking at the bigger picture, this incident is really a cautionary tale about the intersection of social media, professional sports, and personal relationships. We're in largely uncharted territory here because this level of public access to athletes' personal lives is still relatively new. These young players and their partners are navigating situations that previous generations never had to deal with. When Joe Montana or John Elway were playing, their wives weren't posting daily TikTok videos and engaging with fans in comment sections. The technology simply didn't exist. Now it does, and nobody's quite figured out all the rules and boundaries yet. Stories like this one with Dillon Gabriel and his fiancé are teaching everyone in real time what works and what doesn't. And let me tell you, this approach definitely doesn't work. For other NFL players and their partners watching this unfold, the lesson should be crystal clear. Keep your personal frustrations private, at least while your partner is still actively trying to build their career. Once someone is established and secure in their position, maybe there's a little more room to speak freely, although even then it's risky. But when you're a backup quarterback fighting for your professional life, you simply cannot afford to have your significant other starting fires on social media. It's not worth it. No amount of likes or engagement or viral moments is worth jeopardizing an NFL career. These jobs are too rare, too valuable, and too difficult to obtain in the first place to risk them over social media drama. As for what happens next with Dillon Gabriel and the Cleveland Browns, time will tell. The organization might decide this was an isolated incident that's been blown out of proportion and move on without any significant consequences. They might keep Gabriel on the roster as long as he continues to be a capable backup who knows the system. Or they might decide during the next round of roster cuts that they'd rather have a different backup quarterback, someone whose off-field situation is simpler and less likely to create distractions. Given how competitive roster spots are and how many quality quarterbacks are available, the Browns would have no trouble finding a replacement if they decided to move on from Gabriel. That's the precarious reality of his situation, and it was precarious even before his fiancé decided to become a social media headline. The broader sports media world will undoubtedly continue following this story to see if there are any additional developments or consequences. Right now, it's a juicy piece of NFL drama during the season. The kind of thing that gets discussed on sports talk shows and debated on social media. Everyone has an opinion on whether she was wrong to post what she posted, whether the criticism she's receiving is fair, whether this will actually affect Gabriel's career, and what it all means for the modern athlete navigating fame and relationships. These conversations themselves keep the story alive and keep it in the minds of decision-makers within the Browns organization, which is the last thing Gabriel needs if he's hoping everyone will just forget this happened. What we're witnessing here is essentially a masterclass in how not to handle being the partner of a professional athlete. The blueprint for success in that role is actually pretty straightforward. Be supportive publicly, handle frustrations privately, understand that your actions reflect on your partner, and recognize that their career window is short and precious. So don't do anything to jeopardize it unnecessarily. Gabriel's fiancé violated basically all of those principles in one TikTok video and subsequent comment section engagement. She took what should have been a simple game day outfit post and turned it into a legitimate controversy that now has insiders within the organization reportedly concerned. That's an impressive level of damage for such a small amount of content, and not impressive in a good way. The saddest part about all of this is that Dillon Gabriel himself might be a perfectly fine guy who's working hard and trying his best to stick in the NFL. His on-field performance is what it is, but by all accounts, he's not causing problems in the locker room or being a bad teammate. This entire controversy has nothing to do with anything he said or did. He's catching heat purely because of what his fiancé posted on social media. That's got to be incredibly frustrating for him, being put in a position where he now has to manage fallout from something he had no control over. It's a reminder that in today's connected world, you're not just responsible for your own behavior. You can also be held accountable for the behavior of those closest to you, which seems unfair, but is nonetheless reality.